Hey, folks, and welcome to the October 2023 edition of Reset and Restore, where we're going to give ourselves some time to pause and reset our nervous systems, bringing ourselves into the weekend with that good, calm energy. So, for today's class, I will be propping using a blanket and two blocks. I encourage you to give yourself the gift of using props and anything you're going to need to either cushion the floor, make it a little bit softer for your body, or to help raise the floor up to you and support your body even further. So for today's class, let's go ahead and get started in a seated position. I'm going to use this nice rolled up blanket to support my hips. I've got some tight hip situations going on here today. So you'll see me doing a lot of propping today, meeting my body right where it is. And I really deeply encourage you to do the same thing. So once you're settled on your mat and you're in a comfortable seated position, it could be cross-legged, it could be stretching legs out in front of you, perhaps a butterfly position, bringing soles of the feet together. Cobbler's pose would feel more supportive. Finding a position that feels comfortable for you. And of course, if sitting here in this type of position does not feel good, please feel free to start on the back or in child's pose. All right, so once we've settled in, let's gently close the eyes and we'll begin to invite our attention into our bodies, into this shared space with a few slow, deep breaths. Let's start by exhaling completely, emptying the lungs. And then inhaling, filling the lungs with oxygen, taking a nice deep breath, and slowly letting that breath go. And again, breathing deeply in. And exhaling, letting that breath go as well. Noticing if there's somewhere in the body you can soften and release on this exhale. And one more time, breathing deeply in. And exhaling, emptying the lungs, letting something go with the breath. And now allowing the breath to return to its natural rhythm. Let's just do a quick check-in with our bodies today. Relaxing the brow, relaxing the jaw, rolling the shoulders down and away from the ears, softening between the shoulder blades, relaxing the belly, relaxing the glutes, softening the hands, softening the feet, and sensing into the body, noticing if there are any areas of tightness or tension or discomfort. Keeping that in mind as we prepare to move into our physical practice together, meeting your body right where it is today with tender, loving kindness, no judgment needed. And I invite you to take a moment to set your intention for today's class. Perhaps the intention to release anything that is ready to go, any beliefs or thought patterns or energy within the body, in order to create space for what is yet to come as we celebrate this transition from summer into fall, although it still feels like summer here in the Bay Area. Wonderful. And let's begin with a little bit of breath work. So if it feels comfortable, I invite you to bring one or both hands to the belly. And with your natural breathing pattern, just begin to notice if the inhale makes your hands go outward, if you're breathing deeply into the belly. And if you're not feeling a lot of movement in the belly, I invite you to deepen the breath so that you're really filling the lungs and filling the belly with air on every in-breath. And then exhaling completely, making space for that new, fresh air, and inhaling. Deeply filling the lungs with fresh oxygen, fresh prana, fresh life force energy, and then exhaling completely, slowing that exhale down this time. And inhaling and exhaling, slowly slowing down that exhale. And once more, deeply inhaling and slowly letting it go. And now releasing that breath pattern, releasing the hands if you were touching the belly, and allowing your breath to return to its natural rhythm. Just taking notice of how you're feeling now, noticing the state of the body, noticing those areas of tension, of tightness. Sensing into the state of the heart, the state of the emotions right now, noticing how you're feeling, coming into this space, into this practice. Noticing the state of the mind, noticing the thoughts and thought patterns that are currently playing in the mind, and noticing the state of the breath. Connecting with the breath here, the body breathing itself. Nice. And if your eyes are closed, let's go ahead and blink them open, and we'll prepare to move into our physical practice. I just want to note very quickly before we begin moving that today's practice is intended to be very gentle and to meet your body where it is. So if at any point you're feeling pain or discomfort, please back out of the posture, back away from your edge. And that goes for emotional and psychological discomfort as well. So any type of discomfort that you're feeling, physical, emotional, psychological, please back out of the posture, reconnect with the breath, and return to a safe posture, perhaps the posture that we're in now, and just allow yourself to breathe and reconnect with yourself. Okay, so let's begin with a little bit of a neck warm-up. We'll drop the chin to the chest and take some slow, gentle half circles from one side to the other, dropping left ear to left shoulder, coming down and through the center and bringing right ear to right shoulder. Feeling the neck, feeling the state of the neck, feeling any areas of tightness or tension. Really breathing into those areas as you find them. And the next time you bring your right ear to the right shoulder, let's stay there and then begin to circle the head back and forth as if you're nodding no here. Continuing to get some mobility through the cervical spine and loosening up through those tight scalene muscles on the sides of the neck. And then dropping chin to the chest once more and bringing left ear to left shoulder. And then doing the same, nodding the head no. Going through that range of motion over here on the left side, loosening up the muscles and getting some mobility through the cervical spine. And releasing that, coming back through center and bringing the head back up to center. And let's now do some shoulder circles, circling the shoulders back, nice big circles, really lifting the shoulders toward the ears, dropping them back and down, and then coming forward. Feeling the mobility in the upper back, in the scapulae, in the shoulders. And then let's reverse directions and go the opposite way. Nice. And we'll release that pattern of motion for now. Let's now circle out the wrists a little bit, helping to loosen them up, going the other direction after a long week of work, lots of work on the computer perhaps. And let's interlace the fingers and make the hands into one big fist. And from here, we'll begin to draw a slow figure 8 with the hands, really bringing those wrists through the full range of motion. And then reversing directions, going the other way. Nice. And now let's drop hands to the knees. And let's tuck the chin and tuck the tail and come into a slight cow posture, arching the spine. And then we'll lift the chest up toward the sky, looking up, opening the heart. And going back into that arch. And inhaling, opening the heart to the sky. And one more time, arching the spine, tucking the chin, and opening the heart to the sky. Nice. So if you've got your feet, your legs crossed like I do, let's switch out the feet and cross the opposite foot in front, just to get a little bit of symmetry in our feet here, or in our legs, for these last couple of seated postures. From here, let's bring the left hand to the outside of the right knee and bring the right hand either to the hips or the low back, or perhaps to the floor behind you, and begin to gently, gently twist by looking over the shoulder. Our hands are just here to support us. We're not using those to crank our spine into the twist. This is a nice, gentle opening for the spine here. And coming through center, coming to the other side, right hand to the left knee, left hand to the hip, low back, or the floor behind us, as we gently turn to look over that left shoulder, wringing out the spine a bit here. And let's do that one more time on the right side, looking over the right shoulder, and again coming over to the left. Fabulous. And now we'll release that. We'll come back through center. And now let's bring our right hand to the mat and sweep the left arm up and over, going into a bit of a side bend here, letting both sides of the hips, especially the left side, remain heavy on the mat, perhaps turning to look up to or past the elbow here as we open up through the side body. If it doesn't feel good on the neck to look up, feel free to look down or look forward, really finding the expression of this posture that feels best in your body right now. And let's bring that over to the other side, dropping left hand to the left side of the body, sweeping right arm up and over, keeping hips heavy on the mat, and turning to look up to or past the elbow as you open up through that right side body. Breathing here. Feeling the opening in the side body. And coming back through center. Okay, from here, I'm going to remove my prop from underneath my seat. And let's move into a 90-90 position. So what that looks like is turning toward the top of your mat and making a 90-degree angle with one knee, and then making a 90-degree angle with the second leg over to the side of the mat. So if this is quite uncomfortable for you or your hips are really tight, you can always take a blanket and put it underneath the right hip here, or the hip with the leg in front. And from here, we're going to undulate the spine a few times and continue warming up the spine. So we'll fold forward over that front knee and then slowly roll up. And then we'll fold forward and roll up. And once more, fold forward and roll up. And last time, let's fold forward, and now we'll hold it for just a few breaths here. So you can come down to the forearms. You can come down to a block. Breathing into sensation. Returning to your intention. that intention perhaps to create space, create opening, as you send the breath into the hips here. Nice. And we'll come up from there. And now we can simply turn our knees and find ourselves in that 90-90 position on the other side. So now the left leg is in front in a 90-degree position toward the back of the mat. The right leg is in this 90-degree position to the front of the mat. And we can prop our hips up with a blanket if that feels good. And again, we'll come down, folding over that front knee, and then roll up. Come down over the front knee and roll up. And again, coming down over the front knee, hinging forward, and then rolling up. And finally coming down over that front knee. And from here, we will stay for just a few breaths. Breathing space, breathing freedom into the hips here. Connecting with that breath. Connecting with the sensation in your body here. Really practicing this embodiment. Nice. And we'll release that. We'll come up. Remove any props from underneath us that we've been using. Although I will say I'm going to keep my blanket here to keep my hips propped up. As we come back into a seated position, stretch the legs out in front of us and then widen the legs for wide-legged forward fold. So if you're using a prop underneath you, I encourage you to move around until you're really sitting on your sits bones, those pointy bones right in the bottom of your bottom. That helps us keep a nice long spine rather than collapsing into the spine or tucking our tail behind us and having sort of that extreme anterior pelvic tilt. We're looking for that neutral spine here. And from here, we'll begin to slowly hinge forward from the hips, walking the hands forward, coming into a wide-legged forward fold. Now, if it doesn't feel good for you to fold forward, totally fine. Let's stay here. You can bring the hands behind you, either tenting the fingers or coming back onto your blocks to stay supported in this posture. So whichever expression of the posture is working for you today, let's just take a few breaths here. Letting the body relax into the posture, breathing into the posture, sending breath into those tight areas, letting the low back release a little bit as we hinge forward from the hips. Nice. And let's roll the spine up to sitting from here. And then we'll tuck the left leg in toward the right, left foot in toward the right inner thigh for head to knee pose. Beginning to walk the right hand out to or towards the toes. Totally fine to keep it on the thigh, on the shin, reaching for the foot. And then we'll sweep that left arm up and over to open up through the side body just a little bit here. Breathing into sensation. Turning to look up toward the sky if that feels good for the neck. And then turning toward the foot and dropping the head toward the knee. Getting a little bit of a different angle here in this opening. Breathing into sensation. And walking up to a straight spine. Extending that left leg, and we'll do the same on the opposite side. Tucking that right foot into the inner left thigh. Reaching to or towards that left foot with the left hand, sweeping right arm up and over, and turning to look up at the sky if that feels good for the neck. Of course, if it doesn't, feel free to look down, look forward, testing out the right version, the right expression of this posture for you. And then we'll turn to face our knee, And bow forward, hinging forward over the hip, from the hip over the thigh, pardon me. Breathing into sensation, hitting our back body from a bit of a different angle here, opening the back line of the body. And then rolling up to seated, one vertebra at a time. Nice. Okay, so we'll do one more seated posture from here. So let's plant the left foot on the floor and then leaning back, bringing the right ankle over the left foot, and then walking that left foot in until we find a comfortable position for our figure four, keeping the right foot flexed to protect the knee. So if this feels super easy for you, you can always move your left foot closer to your glute in order to make this a little bit of a deeper stretch. Using the hands behind you on the mat, on the floor to support the body, and breathing into those hips. Nice. And we'll release that. Take it to the other side, planting right foot on the floor, crossing left ankle over right knee, and then finding the right expression, the right depth of the posture for you, keeping that left foot flexed to protect the knee, and breathing into the left hip. Connecting with the breath. Nice. And we'll let that go. And from here, we're going to move on to hands and knees into tabletop position. I'm going to take my blocks with me to the front of my mat, and I'll be using a blanket to pad my knees just for a little extra comfort here. So finding yourself with your hands directly under the shoulders, spreading the fingers wide, pressing down through the L's of the hands, and finding the knees underneath the hips. Toes can be tucked or untucked, whatever feels right for you. And from here, we'll just take a few shoulder circles in this tabletop position. So dropping the chest and letting the scaps come up and circling around a few times in one direction, really opening up through the thoracic spine. And then we'll take that the other direction. Doesn't matter which way you go first. The idea is just that we get both directions in. And coming into tabletop once more, finding that neutral spine, drawing the head away from the tail. And from here, let's inhale, drop the belly to the mat, tip the hips up to the sky, look up, open the chest forward for cow, and tuck the chin, tuck the tail for cat. Inhaling to cow. Exhaling to cat. Inhaling to cow. And exhaling to cat. And then coming back to center. And from here, let's step our hands forward toward the front of the mat, keeping the hips over the knees into puppy pose. So we can keep walking our hands forward until we can drop the chest a little bit more towards the mat here. And then we'll come forward, dropping hips to the mat for seal. And coming back to puppy. And again, coming forward to seal. This time you might wiggle the hips a little bit, wiggle the shoulders a little bit as you open up. Coming back once more to puppy. And coming forward once more to seal. Maybe twisting into it just a little bit. And then sitting the hips back into child's pose. Hips towards the heels. Knees can be narrow or wide, whatever feels good for your body. And then just let the hands, the arms relax onto the mat and breathe here for a moment. Nice. And from here, we'll come back to tabletop. Let's inhale, right arm up to the sky, and exhale, thread the right hand behind the left wrist, bringing the right shoulder to the mat. And we'll open up again, inhaling, exhaling, threading the needle. Inhaling, opening to the sky. Exhaling, threading the needle. And this time, let's stay down here, bringing the right shoulder, right temple to the mat, perhaps walking those left fingertips forward and perhaps leaning over to the right a little bit to help open up behind that right shoulder blade where it gets so sticky. Sending breath to any tight areas of the body here. Nice. Bringing the left hand back underneath the left shoulder and coming back through table. And now inhaling, sweeping left arm up to the sky. Exhaling, threading the right or the left hand behind the right wrist, bringing left shoulder to the mat. Inhaling, opening up to the sky. Exhaling, threading that needle. And one more time, inhaling up to the sky. And exhaling, threading the needle. This time we'll hold it, bringing left shoulder to the mat, left temple to the mat, perhaps walking those right fingers out. You might even lean over to the left side a little bit to open up underneath behind the scapula, this area. Breathing into sensation, sending breath into those tight areas. Nice. Okay, and we'll bring the right hand back underneath the right shoulder, planting the hands once more for table. And from here, let's step the left foot forward between the hands, wiggling that foot forward until we find ourselves in a nice low lunge posture. And then just gently begin to circle the knee a little bit here to get some mobility in the hips. We'll go a few ways times in one direction, and then we'll reverse and go in the other direction. From here, let's sit the hips back and point the toes for a little bit of a half split position. You can always bring some blocks back to raise the floor up to you if the back line of the leg is feeling particularly tight here. Breathing into sensation. And then we'll come forward once more, plant the right hand on the floor, and sweep the left arm up to the sky for a twist, looking up toward the fingertips, toward the sky, letting the hips be heavy here. Nice. And coming back through tabletop, let's now step the right foot forward, wiggling that foot forward. You can always pick the foot up and move it forward, whatever you need to do to get into that position. And then from here, we'll take some very gentle circles with that right knee, opening up through the hips, through the knee joints, and reversing direction, doing it a few times both ways. Nice. And then from here, we'll sit the hips back, flexing the toes up toward the ceiling, maybe using those blocks, and coming back into our half split on the second side. Breathing into sensation here. And coming back forward into our lunge, really dropping the hips, letting them be heavy toward the mat, planting the left hand, and then sweeping the right hand up toward the sky. Looking up toward the fingers, up toward the sky, letting the hips be heavy, letting the hips open here. Nice. And from here, we'll simply tuck the back toe and begin to find our way into a forward fold at the top of the mat. If you have any props, you may want to move those out of your way for our standing sequence here. As you're in this forward fold, you might bend and straighten your knees a little bit. You continue opening up through the back line of the body. You might nod your head yes, nod your head no. Might grab opposite elbows and rock back and forth in ragdoll. Really just finding some movement here in this forward fold. Knees can be as bent as they need to be as we lay the belly over the thighs. And let's bring our hands to the shins. Straighten the back for halfway lift. Exhaling, folding forward over the legs once more. And then we'll roll up to standing one vertebra at a time. Finding ourselves tall and strong in mountain pose, pressing down through all four corners of the feet. Inhaling the arms up to the sky, grasping the right wrist with the left hand and coming up and over to the left. For half moon, side body opener, and coming through center, and taking left wrist in the right hand, coming over to the right side, half moon on the second side, opening up through the side body, and coming back through center. Now we'll sit the hips back for chair pose. And you can stay here, or if you would like to, sweep the right arm back for a little twist in chair. Coming back through center, we'll do the same on the left side. Coming back through center, and from here we'll go into a forward fold, bending the knees, loosening up the low back. And now let's step the left toes back behind us. So you're in a high lunge now. And then we'll sweep the arms up to the sky for crescent. Up on the ball of the left foot, lunging into the front leg, opening up through the hip. And then we'll pivot the back heel to the mat, open the front arm forward, back arm backward for warrior two, keeping that lunge in the front leg. Flipping the front palm, sweeping the right arm up and back for reverse warrior. Bringing the right forearm to the right thigh and sweeping the left arm up and over for extended side angle. And now we'll straighten the front leg and sweep the right arm up and back, reverse triangle. And let's stretch right arm forward, left arm back, reach forward, and then tick-tock the arms for triangle posture, looking up to or towards the thumb if that is available for you. And from here, we will go back into our low lunge, pivoting onto the ball of the foot, and then step the left foot up to meet the right, back in forward fold, maybe bending, straightening the knees, maybe nodding the head yes and no, and bringing hands to shins, flat back, halfway lift, exhaling, folding forward over the legs, and inhaling, rolling up one vertebra at a time, coming back to mountain, and exhaling into forward fold once more. We'll step now the right foot back, nice long step, and when you're ready, we'll reach the arms up toward the sky for crescent on the second side. Opening up through the hip here, going long through the side body, and then pivoting the back heel to the mat, lunging into that front leg. Left arm reaches forward, right arm reaches back for warrior two. And then flipping the front palm, sweeping that left arm up and back, reverse warrior. And bringing the left forearm to the left thigh, sweeping right arm up and over, extended side angle. Straightening the front leg, sweeping left arm up and back, reverse triangle. And bringing arms parallel to the ground, reaching forward with the left arm before pivoting to reach left fingers down, right fingers toward the sky for triangle. Your bottom hand can be on the ankle, it could be on a block here. Nice. And from here, we'll frame the foot with our hands coming back into that low lunge. And we'll now drop right knee to the mat, come back into table, bring the knees quite wide, untuck the toes, set the hips back, reach the arms forward, and then melt into the mat. You might rock your hips back and forth a little bit, finding some opening in the low back here in the hips. And connecting with the breath, sending the breath to any tight areas. Wonderful. Just a few more breaths here, settling back into the body. And from here, let's plant our forearms on the mat and reach the legs long behind us as if we're going to come into a cobra. But what we're going to do is bring our elbows beneath our shoulders, plant the forearms on the mat in front of us, spread the fingers wide, and come into Sphinx pose, relaxing the glutes, maybe rocking the legs back and forth a little bit, just making sure that everything's relaxed back there, and letting the arms support the body in this posture. Strengthening the thoracic spine, opening up through the chest and heart center. And from here, we will simply lower our chest to the mat and then find our way onto our backs. And let's draw the knees into the chest, rocking back and forth a few times. And then dropping feet to the mat fairly close to your glutes. You should be able to brush the back of your heels with your fingertips or be relatively close. And from here, we'll tuck the tail under and begin to lift the hips one vertebra at a time, pressing down through the arms to support the posture. Coming into bridge, rolling down one vertebra at a time, coming back down to the mat, and again tucking the tail, and then rolling the hips up to the sky, coming into bridge, activating the glutes, activating the hamstrings, really feeling the back of those legs working. And exhaling, rolling down one vertebra at a time. And we'll do that one more time, tucking the tail, lifting the hips up to the sky. If you would like to bring your shoulder blades underneath you and clasp hands beneath your glutes, really pressing the glutes up to the sky, feel free to take this more heart-opening version of bridge. But any version of bridge is exactly right for your body today, if it feels good. And releasing the hands if you've got them clasped, and rolling down to the mat one vertebra at a time. We'll now walk our feet out to the outside of the mat so that our feet are quite wide. And let's just drop our knees to one side And bring them up and over, drop them to the second side, up and over to the first side, moving through this windshield wiping motion with our knees a few times. I apparently have found the squeaky part of my floor, pardon me. And the next time you come up and over to the first side, let's drop our knees and leave them there. You might even extend the opposite arm out, turn to look over the opposite shoulder. Breathing deeply, reconnecting with the breath, reconnecting with the body, sending that breath to any tight or sticky area that needs a little bit of spaciousness, fresh energy. And coming up through the center, we'll drop our knees now to the second side. And reaching that right arm out beside us, if that feels good, or the opposite arm, whichever arm that is. Turning to look over over the shoulder, those fingertips. Sending the breath to any sticky, tight areas of the body. And letting that go, coming back through center, hugging the knees into the chest one more time, perhaps rocking back and forth. You might draw some circles with the knees here, one direction and then the other. And then from here, we'll extend our legs long on the mat and extend the arms long above us, taking a nice long reach. And then allowing the body to rest, coming into Shavasana, finding a comfortable reclined position where we're just going to rest for a moment, allowing the nervous system to integrate this fantastic work that you've done here today in your yoga practice. Practicing the pause. It is often said that Shavasana is the most important yoga posture of any practice because this is where the integration happens. Allowing the breath to be deep. Imagining that you could melt into your mat with every exhale as the yoga melts into you. You might begin to imagine that with every inhale, you are inviting in fresh energy, fresh vital life force energy, perhaps even in the form of light, into every cell of your body. Breathing in this cleansing, rejuvenating, refreshing energy, and exhaling anything that is no longer serving you, anything that is ready to go, anything that is ready to be recycled or composted by the earth, by the universe, into something brand new. Giving yourself the gift of just a few moments to enjoy the afterglow of this practice. Thanking your body for carrying you through this week, supporting you in today's practice. Noticing if there's anything your body is asking for in return. Some form of care, relaxation, etc. And taking a nice deep breath in, letting it go, awakening through the fingers on the toes, And now gently, slowly turning over to your favorite side, pausing for just a moment, savoring the transition, this liminal space, and then pressing yourself up into a seated position, taking just a moment to honor yourself for carving out the time for this practice. Taking a nice deep breath in and letting it go, letting it all go. Thank you so much for joining me for today's practice. I'm so honored to hold this space with you. I hope to see you next time. I hope you have an amazing weekend. Take care, y'all. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste.